Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. Alex surprises Tuna with a heartfelt proposal that blossoms into a joyful engagement ceremony. From quiet moments on the farm to a celebration with neighbors and family, their love grows stronger as they finally set a wedding date after the harvest. After months apart, Alex and Tuna return with baby Henry, rebuild trust, and embrace a new beginning. As lanterns glow and laughter fills the air, their promise turns into hope for a lifetime together. Stay with us until the end to witness this touching journey. And don't forget to subscribe to help us reach our goal of 1,000 followers. Your support means the world to us. Morning light spilled across the farm like a gentle blessing, glimmering on the dew-draped leaves and softening the edges of yesterday's worries. The yard looked alive, fresh, as if the earth itself wanted to witness something important. Alex handed Tuna the broom, his gesture simple yet loaded with meaning. Their fingers brushed briefly, sparking a quiet connection that made her glance away before the warmth in her cheeks gave her away. They worked side by side, sweeping the courtyard. The sound of straw against stone wove into a rhythm that felt both ordinary and extraordinary, an echo of the life they had nearly lost. Tuna stole glances at Alex as he moved toward the chicken coop, scattering feed with the ease of a man who knew every corner of this place by heart. The hens clucked noisily, feathers rustling like the background music of homecoming. Watching him, she felt a soft smile break free, small but real. It had been so long since she allowed herself to feel that. Alex waved her over to the pond. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and followed, the breeze lifting her sleeve as if nudging her closer. He tossed feed onto the rippling water, silver flashes darting up in eager splashes. "They've grown fast," Alex said, voice steady but quiet. "Maybe they were waiting for you to come back," Tuna replied, crouching beside him. Her words drifted between them like a bird taking flight, fragile yet hopeful. For a heartbeat, Alex forgot the long months of emptiness. She was here now, and maybe that was enough. The rest of the morning slipped by in a haze of quiet tasks, clearing weeds from the vegetable patch, feeding the animals, carrying baskets to the shed. Nothing grand, but every shared step stitched them closer together, as though each chore was part of a larger vow neither dared to speak aloud. At one point, Tuna paused and looked straight at him. "From now on, I won't make you worry like before." Alex leaned on the broom handle, his eyes locked on her face. He didn't answer with words, but the way his gaze lingered said everything. He was memorizing her, as if afraid she might vanish again. By afternoon, the air smelled of soil and fresh feed, carrying the comfort of honest work. Alex returned from the market with a basket of fish, greens, and eggs. Tuna was already in the kitchen, sleeves rolled high, washing vegetables. The kitchen filled with the sounds of chopping, sizzling oil, and water streaming from the tap. "For dinner," Alex said simply, setting the basket on the counter. She glanced at the fish, then at him. "You didn't have to." "It's been a long time since we ate together here," he replied with a shrug, but his voice trembled slightly under the weight of longing. Soon, the table was covered with steamed vegetables, golden fried eggs, and the fragrant fish he'd brought home. It was a modest meal, but to both of them, it felt like a feast. Tuna lifted her chopsticks, tasted the fish, and nodded. Good, really good. They ate in near silence, but every glance carried meaning. Halfway through, Alex finally spoke, voice low, almost hesitant. "If you stay," he said, eyes fixed on his bowl, "don't leave again." It wasn't an order. It was a plea. "I won't," Tuna answered firmly, setting her chopsticks down. The farm outside seemed to pause, as if the fields themselves leaned in to hear. For Alex, the words loosened a burden he had carried alone for far too long. For Tuna, it was the first time in months that she felt the ache of the past start to dissolve. Later, when Henry was asleep and the lamp flickered in the kitchen, Alex leaned against the counter, gathering courage. His voice broke the silence. "You know the villagers. They had things to say. About us. About you." Tuna's eyes dropped, fixed on the lamp flame. She didn't need him to explain. She'd heard those whispers too, sharp as thorns. "But none of it mattered," Alex said, stepping closer. "Not compared to the thought of you here with me." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box, worn at the edges, but carefully kept. Opening it, he revealed a simple silver ring. "I don't want you just for a season." His voice shook now, raw and vulnerable. "I want you and Henry for the rest of our lives." The lamplight caught the ring, reflecting like a tiny star. Tuna's eyes shimmered. Tears slipped free, not from sadness, but from the tidal wave of everything she had held back. Regret, relief, hope. Her hand moved toward his, trembling but certain. "Yes," she whispered. Alex slid the ring onto her finger, his hands unsteady. The kitchen seemed to glow brighter, though the only flame was the tiny lamp. A rush of joy replaced the years of loneliness, and for a moment, he could hardly breathe. Tuna let her tears fall freely now, her smile breaking through like dawn after a storm. The ring was simple, but to her, it was weighty. An anchor, a promise, a home. They embraced in silence, shadows flickering across the walls, the air between them filled not with words, but with certainty. It wasn't the grand proposal of novels or films, but it was real, raw, and perfectly theirs. That night, the farm lay under a sky blanketed with stars. Tuna sat on the porch, rocking Henry gently as the baby dreamed. Alex moved about inside, closing shutters, securing doors, every action radiating his quiet promise to protect. When he finally stepped outside to join her, he stood for a moment in silence, gazing at the wide fields. "Cold?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "No, I'm warm." And she was, not from the night air, but from the certainty in her chest. The foundation they were building was solid, stronger than the doubts that once tore them apart. Alex sat beside her, reaching for her free hand. She didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined naturally, as though they had always belonged together. The night around them seemed to hush, holding their silence as sacred. For the first time in a long while, Tuna felt her heart still. She looked at Alex, at Henry sleeping in her arms, at the farm they had nearly lost, and she knew. This was home. This was where her future began again. The stars above bore witness. the wind whispering its blessing as their clasped hands formed a vow that needed no ceremony. But Alex had more in store. Tomorrow, he would make it known not just to her, but to everyone. What he had whispered tonight would soon be celebrated openly. Their bond, their union, their unshakable choice to walk life's road together. And for Tuna, that promise felt as steady as the earth beneath her feet. The next morning dawned bright, as if the heavens themselves conspired to paint a backdrop of promise. Birds chattered noisily in the trees, and sunlight streamed through the open shutters, touching the wooden floor with golden warmth. Tuna stirred awake to the faint sound of movement outside. She glanced at Henry, still asleep, his small chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. Quietly, she rose and wrapped a shawl around her shoulders. When she stepped out into the yard, she froze. The courtyard had been transformed. Colorful cloth banners were draped from post to post, catching the breeze like sails of joy. Tables had been set up, covered in white cloth, and adorned with wildflowers freshly picked from the fields. Neighbors bustled about, arranging chairs, lighting incense, placing trays of fruit and sweets. Laughter rippled through the air, weaving into the clatter of dishes and the shuffle of footsteps. And there stood Alex, at the center of it all, speaking with his sister, his eyes glowing with a light Tuna hadn't seen in years. She stepped closer, confusion and awe mixing in her chest. "What is all this?" she asked softly. Alex turned, his smile widening. "Today," he said, "is our engagement day." Her heart stumbled in her chest. "Engagement?" "Yes," Alex said firmly, walking toward her. "Last night, you accepted the ring, but I don't want it to be just our secret. I want everyone to know. I want the village, our families, even the earth beneath our feet to bear witness." Tuna's lips parted, but no words came. The truth sank in slowly. He had planned this. Maybe not every detail, but enough to show his intention. The whispers that once shadowed her steps, the doubts that had haunted her. He was answering all of them now, openly, without hesitation. "Alex," her voice wavered, but he gently pressed a finger to her hand. "No more hiding," he whispered. The ceremony began shortly after. Villagers gathered, some out of curiosity, others out of genuine affection. The courtyard filled with voices, the mingling scents of incense and cooking food thickening the air. Tuna stood by Alex's side, dressed in a simple but elegant outfit his sister had brought. A soft ivory dress, her hair neatly tied, a single flower tucked behind her ear. She felt awkward at first, unused to so many eyes on her, but Alex's steady presence at her side anchored her. An elder from the village approached, carrying a tray with symbolic offerings, red candles, cups of rice wine, a roasted chicken, and bundles of sticky rice wrapped in banana leaves. His voice rang clear. "Today we celebrate the union of Alex and Tuna, witnessed by the people, by the land, and by the ancestors." The crowd murmured approvingly, some smiling, some wiping their eyes. Alex took Tuna's hand and squeezed it gently. "From this day forward," he said, his voice firm, "you are not just someone I wait for. You are my partner, my future, my wife-to-be." Tuna's eyes welled up. She swallowed hard, then answered, "And I will walk beside you, through every season, through every storm. I won't leave again." Applause broke out, loud and genuine. Even those who once whispered behind their backs now nodded with softened expressions. The engagement wasn't only about them, it was about reclaiming their place in the community, about declaring they would no longer live in the shadows of doubt. After the vows, Alex's sister stepped forward, cradling Henry in her arms. She kissed the boy's forehead before handing him back to Tuna. "He belongs here," she said quietly, her voice laced with emotion. "I was wrong before. I see it now." Tuna accepted Henry, holding him close, her heart brimming. This truce with Alex's family meant more than words could capture. The celebration unfolded with music, laughter, and the clinking of cups filled with rice wine. The villagers shared dishes: steamed fish, roasted pork, fresh greens from the fields, bowls of noodles fragrant with herbs. Children darted between tables, their giggles mixing with the joyous chatter of adults. At one point, Alex led Tuna to a quieter corner of the yard, away from the noise. The sun was dipping lower, painting the sky in hues of rose and amber. He looked at her intently. "There's one thing left," he said. She tilted her head. "What's that?" "The date," Alex replied. "When shall we be married?" Her breath caught. The word felt heavy yet thrilling. Married. She had once run from the thought, afraid of permanence, of binding herself only to be left alone again. But standing here now, with his ring on her finger and Henry in her arms, she realized those fears no longer ruled her. "When do you want it?" she asked softly. "I'd marry you tomorrow if I could," Alex admitted, half smiling. "But I want it to be right. I want to prepare, to honor you properly." Tuna laughed through her tears. "Then not too long. Maybe after the harvest? That way the fields can feed the guests, and the season will be full of life." Alex's eyes lit up. "After the harvest it is." They clasped hands, sealing the decision in the warm light of dusk. It wasn't an official signing of papers, not yet, but the promise between them felt stronger than ink. As evening deepened, lanterns flickered on around the yard, their golden glow mingling with the laughter still spilling from the tables. Music played, villagers clapped, and children danced barefoot on the packed earth. The farm, once so silent and heavy with loneliness, now pulsed with life. Tuna leaned against Alex, Henry nestled in her arms, the boy's small hand clutching her sleeve. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" Alex asked. "For believing in us, for not giving up." "Even when I did." Alex kissed the top of her head. "It was never a question. You've always been my home." She closed her eyes, letting the words settle deep inside her. For the first time in years, she felt completely at peace. The engagement feast went late into the night. Songs rose into the air, mingling with the chirping of crickets and the occasional bark of a dog. When the last guests finally left, the farm lay quiet again. But the silence no longer felt empty. It felt sacred, like the pause after a prayer has been spoken. Alex and Tuna walked the yard slowly, hand in hand, lanterns swinging gently in the breeze. They stopped in the middle of the courtyard, gazing up at the blanket of stars overhead. "After the harvest," Tuna repeated, smiling softly. "After the harvest," Alex confirmed, pulling her into his arms. Their embrace was unhurried, steady, filled with the certainty that they had finally crossed the bridge from doubt into devotion. Above them, the stars shimmered, as if the universe itself had come to witness. And in that quiet, surrounded by fields that would soon yield their fruit, Alex and Tuna stood together, not as two souls hesitating on the edge of trust, but as a couple stepping boldly toward a shared future. The engagement was not the end of their story. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where the scars of the past became the soil from which love and hope would grow, season after season, harvest after harvest, until the day they stood together as husband and wife.